According to municipal records from 2006, the city of Baltimore was undergoing a period of significant transition, particularly in the Mount Vernon neighborhood. It was here, amidst the historic architecture and shifting demographics, that 32-year-old Rey Rivera and his wife, Allison, had established their residence. Rivera, a writer and videographer by trade, had relocated to the area to accept a contract with Stansberry and Associates, a financial research firm operating under the umbrella of Agra Publishing. Employment files indicate that Rivera was tasked with writing newsletters and producing videos for the company, a role that required meticulous research and strict adherence to deadlines. On the weekend prior to the primary timeline of events, specifically May 14th and 15th, specific irregularities were noted in the Rivera household. Police dispatch logs from that weekend show that the home security system was triggered twice. According to the incident reports, officers responded to the residence, but found no signs of forced entry. The windows remained intact, and the doors were secured. Rivera was reported to be in a state of heightened anxiety during these interactions. Statements later collected from Allison Rivera indicated that her husband had expressed a fear that someone was attempting to gain access to the property. Though no physical evidence of an intruder was recovered at the location, the timeline of the disappearance centers on May 16th, 2006. On this date, at approximately 4 p.m, Allison Rivera departed the residence in the Northwood neighborhood to travel to Richmond, Virginia, for a business engagement. This departure marked the beginning of a window of time where Rey Rivera's movements would become the primary subject of a complex procedural inquiry. Procedural reconstruction of that day relies heavily on the testimony of a house guest, Claudia, who was a colleague staying with the Riveras at the time. According to the statements provided to investigators, Rivera spent the morning and early afternoon working in his home office on the second floor. At approximately 6:30 in the evening, a call was received on Rivera's mobile device. Phone records, obtained via subpoena later, confirmed that the incoming call lasted less than 1 minute. The origin of the call was traced to a switchboard at the Agra Publishing headquarters, located in the Mount Vernon district. Due to the nature of the switchboard system, investigators were unable to determine which specific extension or individual placed the call. Immediately following this telephonic exchange, the witness observed Rivera leaving the residence with significant urgency. Notes from the initial interview state that Rivera shouted a brief explanation that he was running late. He departed the house wearing casual attire, specifically flip-flops and lounge pants, suggesting he did not intend to be gone for an extended duration. He He did not take his primary set of keys or other personal effects typically carried during a planned excursion. He exited the rear door of the house and entered his vehicle, a 2004 Toyota 4Runner. This was the last confirmed sighting of Rey Rivera. When Rivera failed to return that evening, Allison Rivera attempted to contact him. Calls went directly to voicemail. By the morning of May 17th, the lack of communication prompted Allison to contact the houseguest, who confirmed Rivera had not returned to the residence. Allison returned to Baltimore immediately, and the procedural machinery of a missing persons case began to turn. While a waiting period is often observed, the sudden nature of the departure led to immediate action. Family members began contacting local hospitals and detention centers. No intake records matched his description. A formal missing persons report was filed, initiating a canvass of the surrounding areas. For 6 days, the investigation yielded no physical leads. It was not until May 23rd that a tangible piece of evidence was located. Rivera's vehicle was discovered in a parking lot on St. Paul Street in the Mount Vernon neighborhood. The location was significant. It was situated adjacent to the work site of Stansberry and Associates, and just south of the Belvedere Hotel, a historic structure converted into condominiums and commercial space. Procedural errors in the timeline of the vehicle discovery became apparent upon review of municipal records. While the vehicle was located by the family and investigators on May 23rd, parking enforcement records showed that the Toyota had been issued a citation on May 18th. The vehicle had remained in that specific spot for 6 days. The cross-referencing of the license plate against the missing person database failed to flag the location sooner. This delay resulted in the loss of potential video surveillance retrieval from nearby businesses, as many security systems operated on a loop that overwritten data after 48 or 72 hours. Investigators noted that the vehicle was unlocked and undamaged. Inside, they cataloged Rivera's effects, which included his computer and a plastic bag of snacks. There were no signs of a struggle within the interior of the car. The proximity to the Belvedere Hotel shifted the focus of the search. The Belvedere was a known landmark, and Rivera had frequented the location in the past, particularly the 13th floor bar, which offered a panoramic view of the city. On May 24th, 8 days after the initial disappearance, the search of the Belvedere premises intensified. Personnel focused on the upper levels and the exterior grounds. 3 of Rivera's colleagues accessed the upper level of the parking garage, adjacent to the main hotel building. From this vantage point, looking down toward the lower roof of the hotel's annex, they observed an anomaly. The annex housed a defunct swimming pool area known as the Racket Club. On the gravel-covered roof of this structure, searchers identified a hole. The opening was approximately 40 inches in diameter. Surrounding the hole, the gravel had been disturbed, and investigators located personal items belonging to Rivera. These included his glasses, mobile phone, and a pair of black flip-flops. Based on the visual identification of the footwear, authorities were contacted immediately. Upon gaining access to the interior of the racket club, which required navigating through a locked and disused portion of the hotel, investigators located the individual. Rey Rivera was found in the empty swimming pool, directly beneath the breach in the roof. The medical examiner arrived at the location to pronounce the loss of life. The scene was secured, and the collection of forensic evidence commenced. The processing of the location presented immediate contradictions that challenged standard investigative theories. The vertical distance from the main roof of the Belvedere Hotel to the annex roof where the impact occurred was approximately 188 feet. However, the horizontal distance from the edge of the main roof to the hole was 45 feet. Procedural simulations suggested that for an individual to land at that specific distance, they would have to leave the roof edge with a running velocity of 11 miles per hour. While not physically impossible, the layout of the roof complicated this theory. The roof contained various obstructions, including air conditioning units and a high parapet wall, which would have made achieving such speed and trajectory difficult without mechanical assistance. Further complicating the scene analysis was the condition of the personal effects recovered on the annex roof. The mobile phone and eyeglasses were found adjacent to the hole. According to the evidence log, both items were intact. The phone was functional, and the glasses were unbroken. In cases involving falls from significant heights, kinetic energy transfer typically results in the fragmentation of delicate items carried by the individual. The fact that these items rested on the roof surface without significant damage suggested to some forensic analysts that they might have been placed there rather than traveling the same vertical trajectory as the individual. The autopsy report, finalized in the weeks following the recovery, presented a complex set of injuries. The medical examiner noted multiple fractures, consistent with a fall from a significant height, specifically severe trauma to the legs and ribs. The shin fractures were consistent with the individual impacting a surface feet first. However, the official manner of death was ruled as undetermined. This classification is procedurally distinct from a ruling of an accidental fall or a self-inflicted incident. The medical examiner cited contradictory evidence as the reason for this inconclusive finding. Toxicology screens were negative for illicit substances and showed only a negligible amount of alcohol, negating theories that intoxication played a role in the event. Investigators attempted to reconstruct the movements of Rivera within the Belvedere Hotel to fill the gap between his departure and the discovery. They requested access to the building's security camera footage. The Belvedere managed a system that monitored the lobby, elevators, and rooftop access points. However, building management informed detectives that due to a technical error, the cameras on the roof were not recording on the dates in question. Furthermore, the footage from the lobby and elevators was reviewed, but investigators stated they could not positively identify Rivera entering the building or ascending to the roof on any archived video. This created a procedural void. There was no digital footprint of Rivera entering the location where he was found. The investigation then turned to physical access points. The main door to the roof of the Belvedere was equipped with a specialized alarm system. Maintenance logs for the building showed no record of the alarm being triggered on the night of May 16th. The only other access points were through private condominiums or via a precarious ledge that would have required advanced climbing skills to navigate. No witnesses reported seeing Rivera in the building. As the physical investigation stalled due to these inconsistencies, focus shifted to the documentary evidence recovered from Rivera's home. During a search of his office, Allison Rivera located a small note taped to the back of his computer monitor. This document became a central artifact in the case files. The note was typed in a microscopic font size, requiring magnification to read legibly, and had been folded and wrapped in plastic. The content of the note was analyzed by the Federal Bureau of Investigation. The text did not follow a standard narrative structure. It contained a list of names, including public figures, friends, and colleagues. It referenced secret societies, the Freemasons, and requested that the listed individuals be made 5 years younger. It also included the phrase, "Whom virtue has united, death will not separate." The tone of the writing was described in the file as disjointed. Initial theories posited that this could be a note indicating intent to end his life, but the analysis concluded that it did not fit the profile of a standard farewell letter. Instead, it appeared to be related to a screenplay or a research project Rivera may have been conducting. The context of the note remains a subject of debate within the case file. The investigation also scrutinized Rivera's employment at Stansberry and Associates. Records show that the company had recently been fined by the Securities and Exchange Commission for disseminating false stock information. While there was no direct evidence linking Rivera to the specific regulatory infractions, the timing of his death relative to the company's legal troubles was noted in supplementary reports. A gag order was reportedly placed on employees of the firm, preventing them from speaking to the media regarding the internal operations of the company. When detectives attempted to interview colleagues to establish a timeline of Rivera's professional stresses, they were often directed to the company's legal counsel. This lack of cooperation hindered the ability of detectives to build a complete profile of the days leading up to the incident. The cell phone records provided another dead end. The call that precipitated Rivera's departure came from the Agora switchboard, but without the specific extension data, the identity of the caller could not be established. Whoever summoned Rivera at 6:30 in the evening did not come forward during the public appeals for information. By the end of 2006, the official investigation had exhausted its immediate leads. The classification of the death as undetermined meant that the case remained open but inactive. The procedural failures, specifically the delay in securing video footage, the inability to trace the switchboard call, and the lack of preservation of the scene before the body was discovered, left the timeline fragmented. The doctrine of evidence in the Rivera case is defined by what is missing as much as what was found. There is a record of a call, but no caller. There is a record of a fall, but the physics do not align with the launch point. There is a note, but it lacks a coherent message. The camera on the roof of the Belvedere was disconnected at the time of the event. The hard drive of the security system was not reviewed until the data had been overwritten. To this day, the files regarding Rey Rivera sit in the archives of the Baltimore Police Department. The tangible records tell a story of a man who received a summons, left his home in haste, and was located 6 days later in a secured room of a historic hotel, with no clear path explaining how he arrived there. The inconsistencies in the trajectory analysis and the forensic pathology reports ensure that the case remains a subject of procedural scrutiny. Absent a definitive conclusion,